Hey there, this is Kayla from 9CI. Today we're going to be discussing a paper I've read recently. Comments on the US National Toxicology Program, technical reports on toxicology and carcinogenesis study in rats exposed to whole body radiofrequency radiation at 900 megahertz and in mice exposed to whole body radiofrequency radiation at 1900 megahertz by Hardell and Karlberg in October 2018. That's just a little bit of background information. The National Toxicology Program technical reports are long-term, interdisciplinary, extensive studies, are pretty large scale. This particular one was over 200 pages long, closer to 300. It's a wonderful read. I highly recommend it if you really want to. But this particular paper is just a literature summary on that. So it includes a bunch of other studies and they analyze all their numbers and see what they can glean from that. So a little bit of background knowledge. The abstract of this kind of starts off with a bit of politics. So they go directly into hating ICNIRP. ICNIRP is the International Commission on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection. They feel like individuals have links to the telecommunication industry. They feel like this is a conflict of interest for them. Maybe. Then they go on to discuss how in 2011, the World Health Organization, WHO, classified RF radiation as group 2B, possibly carcinogenic. This is a little interesting because in 1982, a paper was published stating that RF radiation had carcinogenic potential. So that's a 30-year difference for them to come to the same conclusion. It's kind of a long time. Evidence of carcinogenic links, it's a little difficult. So the US NTP found an increased incidence of glioma in the brain and schwannoma in the hearts of rats and mice. This review compares related animal studies to human epidemiological studies. They found there was a relation between radiofrequency radiation being a multi-site carcinogen. They're stating that RF radiation should be reclassified as group 1, which is carcinogenic to humans. As you can see, they did review quite a few papers over the past 20 years, most of which are in the past 2 or 3. The oldest, obviously, being the 1982 paper by Schmagalski et al., linking RF and the co-carcinogenic effects of benzopyrene. Benzopyrene is the carcinogen found in cigarettes and coal tar. Healthy, right? They studied it. The cancer development was found at 2,450 megahertz for RF radiation at either 50 or 100 watts per meter squared. Non-thermal continuous wave RF radiation has shown to cause biphasic effects on glioma and lymphocyte cells. So biphasic means that it has 2 effects. So for this one, the cell proliferation was found at SAR. SAR is specific absorption rate at less than or equal to 50 watts per kilogram. And at higher SAR, it suppressed DNA and RNA synthesis. The same thing happens with alcohol. So if you have a blood alcohol content of 0.05 or less, it's a stimulant, and higher, it's supposed to be it's a depressant. Doesn't have the same effect on your 6th beer when you're up there singing karaoke, am I right? The SAR ranged from 0.0144 to 0.04 watts per kilogram. So again, this is where your Wi-Fi and your Bluetooth ranges are. The study points out that there was a link for malignant lymphoma and thyroid cancer. This is really interesting because ICNIRP has stated a safety levels for the mobile phones. SAR are 2 watts per kilogram. So they have the safety levels 4 times higher than what they're finding links to cancer at. There are a bunch of other studies that they cite that have similar findings. They're probably referencing thyroids because they have higher exposure values, right in there. The largest long-term study was by the Ramazzini Institute, on which 2,500 rats were exposed to RF until natural death. Yay, they died of natural causes. Sort of natural. It's probably an excellent opportunity to observe the effects of sex hormones and RF. The study found a lot of things, some of which was not statistically relevant, but still had observable effects. So they saw it, but it didn't have enough of an effect to count it as statistically relevant. Another study found that there was an increase in thyroid cancer in humans between 1970 and 2013. The mobile phone antenna development could be related. The second generation 2G phones in the 1990s introduced an external helical monopole retractable antenna. The GSM bands are operated at 800 or 900 megahertz and later accompanied by an 1800 megahertz. These were eventually replaced by internal planar or microstrip antennas with dual band, which were at first located at the top of the phone and then as technology advanced moved down to the bottom. Some published lab studies for RF radiation at 2.5 gigahertz at non-thermal level modified the morphology of the thyroid gland in rats. Acoustic neuromas in humans, aka vestibular schwannomas, is a non-malignant tumor in the 8th cranial nerve. The growth is slow due to the narrow anatomical space and may lead to compression of vital brainstem structures. Symptoms of the acoustic neuroma are usually tinnitus or loss of hearing. Makes sense, it's in the ear. And they found a statistically increased risk for ipsilateral use. So ipsilateral is the same side that you use your phone on, is where you get the tumors. Based on these studies, they found an increased risk of developing glioma and acoustic neuroma associated with the use of mobile phones, Bluetooth headsets, and earbuds. Malignant vestibular schwannomas is a similar tumor type as acoustic neuromas, aka vestibular schwannomas. Schwann cells are the cells that wrap around the nerve to increase action potential speed along the nerve. So if they're damaged or gone, then the action potential has to take all the little steps in between in order to go along. So it either dies out and doesn't send the signal at all, or it slows down so the signal gets sent slower. So if it's something important like your heart, the heart can't pump properly. The findings are less consistent for the meningioma, although there is a somewhat increased risk for the meta-analysis of the ipsilateral mobile phone use, and more studies are going to be needed for the slow-growing tumor. The current evidence for RF radiation exposure is worrying with the 5G deployments coming up. More than 200 doctors and scientists have asked for a moratorium on this so that further studies can be done on the hazards of the health impacts on humans and the environmental impacts. I felt like this paper didn't really have any biases. They did state all the studies where they didn't find much or the findings weren't statistically relevant. And then they summarize everything quite nicely in this lovely little table in which they find clear evidence or equivocal evidence for gliomal, meningioma, vestibular schwannomas, acoustic neuromas, pituitary adenomas, thyroid, malignant lymphomas, skin, so cutaneous tissue. But I think most importantly, they found that there was clear equivocal evidence that RF radiation is a multi-site carcinogen, so it'll affect many cells in the body. That's pretty interesting. But if you would have any comments, questions, or concerns, feel free to voice them by leaving a comment below, liking our page, subscribe to our channel. And if you'd like to learn more about what we do here at 9CI, visit us at www.9ci.ca. Thank you.